Okay, well, as I said, the power for this month is order. Order is such a good word, isn't it? When I first think of order as one of our 12 powers, I think of tidiness, neatness, everything in its place, everything being right and proper and correct. I also think of time, because to me, perfect time is part of divine order. Divine order includes perfect timing. But order also has a whole bunch of meanings and connotations that as I sat down to write this, I thought of. The first is that tidiness that I referred to. That helps us to arrange things so that we can find them, so we know where things are. We have numerical order, we have alphabetical order. Sometimes we line things up in order of whatever quality we can choose. Kids, we line them up in order of height, right? Or age. We line people up in the order that they stood up and waited in line. We take people in order. We line people up in order of their importance. I used to work for a Japanese firm, and we used to do the annual general meeting and a great dinner, and it took weeks to plan the seating plan because the guests were seated in order of how close they were to the chief executive officer, right? Interesting. All sorts of ways of maintaining order. Pecking order should probably include it here. Right? We operate by order of the court, by order of our government, by our laws. Some of us operate under doctors' orders, under orders from above, if we think that orders come from above. Divine order, of course, is when all those things are in the right place. The next use of order that I thought of was in the line of functioning. Things are either in order or out of order, right? And we do things in order for. So we grow an garden in order to have fresh vegetables, right? We sometimes, I think I'm all out of order here. So things sometimes, you go into the washroom, it's out of order, right? It's working or it's not working. And, sometimes when things aren't working in your life, if you're working on a particular challenge and you keep attacking it and you keep attacking it and you keep going at it again and again, but you're doing the same thing over and over again, and somebody says to you, how's that working for you? A little snide, how's that working for you? But what they're wanting to know is, are your thoughts, are your beliefs, are your feelings, are your intentions, are your expectations, are your actions in order, in line with what you want the outcome to be? How's that working for you? Is it in working order or not? In other words, forget it. I'm going on to the next step. So another use for the word order is that it's either working or not working. Then there's the use of order as in instruction, ordering people about, calling a meeting to order, law and order, right? Law is a great one. We might get a court order, a restraining order, a cease and desist order, orders that we have to obey. We're under orders, under the law, under the doctor, under the government. Now, but our version of God is not that person, king, ordering us about. Our version of God is that it is that presence and power that is everywhere that responds to us. That God actually, get ready for this, are you ready? That God actually follows our orders. That God is actually standing by to do as we request. So the very unfolding of the universe is a reflection of the order of our thinking, our beliefs, our expectations, our intentions, our words, and our actions. Are they all in divine order, or are they a little bit out of order? I wish I could learn to use my computer properly. Then you wouldn't have to sit and wait for me all this time. Oh. And then there's yet another meaning for order as purpose, in order to. So we plant a garden in order to have the harvest. We come to unity in order to what? You go to college in order to get a university education. You come to unity in order to fill in the blank for you. So we have order as a noun, a thing. We have order as an adjective, a description. And we have order as a verb. We order people about. We call to order. We order things online, right? But best of all is that meaning of order as a request, an intention, an expectation. Eric Butterworth said, we do not get what we want, we get what we expect. How's that for a blow to your ego? Whenever we expect something, we are actually placing an order for it. Do you get that? I want to share a little story that illustrates how intention creates the order. Not always the way you expect, but years and years ago, I was studying to become a EST seminar leader, which was a 6-month course. And as part of that course, we had to spend 3 weekends in San Francisco. And the first weekend, it was a Friday evening. The facilitator was just wrapping up, and he'd give the usual good night blessing, off you go now, have a good time, get to bed early, get lots of sleep, go out, have fun, share the training, but be back here at 8 o'clock in the morning, fresh. Well, my friends and I had traveled that day, so we were a little tired, so we went straight to our room at the hotel and we went to bed. And I woke up very early in the morning with this niggling little thought here. We had been given homework. It was just kind of implied very discreetly, but in what he said was, go out, share the training. And I had not found somebody to talk to about the training. I had not done my homework. So I got up real early by myself and I went to Smitty's for breakfast. And I was seated at one of those tables that has a piece in the middle that goes up that divides it into 2 tables. So I was seated at one end, and shortly thereafter 2 gentlemen came in. This is about 6 in the morning. And they sat down and they ordered chocolate sundaes. And I said, good morning, that's an interesting breakfast choice. And Carlos, as he turned out to be, looked at me and he said, you have the most amazing green eyes, will you marry me? And I said, well, I can't really do that because I'm just about to remarry my ex-husband. And Carlos said, how did that come about? And I said, well, I did this thing called the S training. And Carlos threw his spoon across the table. And I said, you're familiar with the training? He said, I was registered for it, but my Christian friends told me it was the work of the devil, so I canceled. And in a flash of brilliance far beyond my normal ken, instead of doing my elevator speech and telling him why the training was so great, I simply said, oh, are you Christian, Carlos? And he said, no, I'm not. Come with me. And he took my hand, 6 o'clock in the morning, downtown streets of San Francisco. We walked 4 blocks to an apartment. We walked up 4 floors. He knocked on his friend's door. He said, my friend said he'd lend me money for the training. So we picked up a check for $400. And I went back into our session the next morning with a registration and $400 in my pocket. I got certified that day. Now, I had no idea how it was going to happen. I just set the intention, I put in the order that I was going to find a way to share the training this morning. So that's how it works. There's all sorts of layers of orders as requests, from a simple, please, might I have some more, to a command. So we place our order. Now, that can be a verbal order, a written order, a whispered order, a shouted order, a mail order, an online order, a direct order, a tall order. A tall order is when you say, I'd like a new career, please. Oh, and by the way, oh no, that's not it. That's the side order. The side order is when you say, oh, and by the way, I'd also like to weigh 122 pounds and find a new romance in my life. That's a side order. A tall order is the big one. Help me create peace in the world, that one, right? One way in which we place our order is prayer, isn't it? Isn't that what we're doing when we pray or affirm? We're placing an order. In business, most notably the fashion business, there's made to order. And that's a very specific request. You go in, you get measured, and a garment is made specifically to your order. The order is actually the trigger to the manufacturing process that pulls the product into production. Made to order relies on specific customer demand. Can we apply that to prayer or affirmations? Right? Tailor-made, individual requirements, specific customer demand. What's our order? What do you demand? Now, if you're in the business of selling clothes, you might just make a whole bunch of clothes, the same design, different colors, different sizes. You put them up on the rack or up online, and people come and buy them, right? But if you're in the business of selling clothes, you also might want to wait until people come to you and tell you exactly what you want, they want, and you make that. So is it made to order, or is it off the rack? People don't buy what you make what people buy. Divine order is in both. Either way, buying clothes off the rack or having clothes tailor-made, they're both great things, right? Kind of like in a restaurant. A restaurateur might put out a buffet and just spread out all sorts of things for you to choose from. Or the restaurateur might wait till you come into the establishment and tell him what you want, and then she makes that. Universe is kind of like that. It has made a whole banquet of things and experiences all laid out for us to choose from. They're all ready-made, on the rack, so to speak. And if you don't place an order, you get to choose from what there is. But you don't have to take what is. You can choose an order and create something new. The universe will make things to your order, to your specification, and what's more, there's free delivery. Free delivery. So in our restaurant, we give our order to the waiter, right? And we trust that in due course, that order will show up just the way we've placed it, in the appropriate amount of time, divine time. That's what we do. The waiter takes our order to the cook, who prepares it in her own divine time and gives to the waiter to bring to us. The waiter is an intermediary between us and the chef. Once the chef has our order, we let go. We don't worry about it, do we? We just trust that that order is going to come to us when it's ready. We carry on with our conversation and know that dinner is being provided. And if we have any questions or concerns, we talk to the waiter about it, right? The waiter is our intermediary. The waiter is our we don't generally have direct access to the cook. We have an intermediary in the waiter. The one power and presence active in the universe and in my life does not use a mediary, intermediary. Intermediary, have I got that right? It responds directly to us. Now, many faith paths think that you do need an intermediary, a god, a priest, a minister, an imam, a monk, Jesus, Mother Mary. But unity isn't like that. We teach that you yourself are the access point. It's like go directly into the kitchen and telling the chef exactly what you want and how you want it. So unity ministers are more like the maitre d' than the waiter. We welcome you, we sit you down, we explain the menu, and then you make your choices. There's an old joke that there are two kinds of ministers, the shepherd and the rancher. Now, the shepherd is the minister you think you want. Comes to visit you in the hospital, remembers your name, remembers your grandchildren's name, remembers your cat's birthday, holds your hand, all that good, gentle, loving stuff. The rancher drives the pickup truck into the middle of the field, drops off a bale of hay, and says, "There you go." That's the kind of ministers we are, really. And at Unity, our bale of hay is Unity's 5 basic principles, right? There's one power and present. There's only God in the universe. Everything is God. Therefore, right here is also God. Therefore, as God, I create the way God does by thinking my universe into existence. 4, you get there by prayer and meditation. That's how you communicate. And 5, it ain't enough to know this. You've got to act on it. There you go. Bale of hay for you. And then we have another bale of hay. Included in that bale of hay we've dropped off is not only the 5 basic principles, but the 12 powers. The 12 powers are what helps you to digest the hay and make it active make it useful in your system. Now, I don't think it hurts to remind ourselves often of what our 12 powers are, not just once a month. So what I'd like to do is just remind you what the powers are, read off the list very slowly, and I would invite you to close your eyes if you're comfortable doing so. And as I name each of the powers, just allow yourself to acknowledge how that power serves you and is useful in your life. Faith, strength, wisdom, love, power, imagination, understanding, will, order, zeal, elimination, life. Okay, deep breath and come on back. So the power again for this month is order, and to me there's two main aspects. First is the natural order of the universe, and it helps us to remember that even when things are crazy, mixed up, and jumbled in our lives, there is order in the universe. Go to nature. Look at nature. There is always order available. In the overall scheme of things, no matter what we're facing right now, no doubt the things we currently have our knickers in a knot about aren't really all that important. My mother always used to say, in 50 years, who's going to even remember, right? There's always order. We shift our focus from what appears to be out of order to that which is working, which is always in order. The oneness, the one presence and power active in the universe and in my life. And I always, when I say active in the universe, I want to say active throughout the universe. Because it's not just in the universe over there someplace, it's throughout. And the second thing is that we can create our own order. We can order our own lives by ordering up that which we wish to experience. And we do that again with our thoughts, our beliefs, our intentions, our expectations, and our prayer and our affirmation. Don't forget, our prayer is not begging, asking, supplicating, bargaining. Our prayer is affirmative prayer. It's accepting prayer. It can even be commanding prayer. Dr. Ken commands quite frequently, doesn't it? To command is to give an authoritative order. You are authorized. You are authorized to order your own life. There you go. A couple more little side notes that we can add to our metaphor about order is back orders. You ever ordered something that's not quite available just yet? Just keep telling yourself the universe is in divine order. It's back ordered. As soon as it's available, it'll come to me. Change order. You can always change your orders. You can always change your mind. Not Ernest Holmes. Charles Fillmore is famous for having said, I reserve the right to change my mind. That's why we're here, not to learn a fixed dogma. We're here to learn to think. And standing orders. Well, a standing order is your ground of being. That's where you come from. So it's like, help me to, Spirit, I affirm that I live in peace, in integrity, in truth, in kindness, and in love. That's your standing order, right? When I go to Vancouver, when I speak there, I don't know how they got addicted to this, but I always have to do a little rap for them. So I do one for each month. So I got the power of order. It's the perfect time. It's the perfect place for every dream of mine. I patiently pray and meditate, then patiently, confidently, happily wait. I rise myself up to a higher place and see perfect order in this time and place. There you go. Namaste.